celebrates the power, resilience, and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month, and we're honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces, and our homes. Join SAFM in recognizing the achievements, strengths, and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAFM, leading the Women's Month conversation.
Ngaphandle kwakho yewe nawe ingoma yewe ingoma yewe ingoma yewe ingoma wena 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 ye ngoma ndizikhathalelana ukuthi ubani uthini andinamsebenzi oh ngiyamthanda baby unjengengoma yena engishaya ubusuku bonke ngiyokwenza njani ngaphandle kwakho uyingoma wena shaya ubusuku bonke ngiyokwenza njani ngaphandle kwakho uyingoma uyingoma wena uyingoma wena uyingoma wena uyingoma wena a relentless song engandiniki buthongo ingoma endiyithanda nanini na ngoma wena wangena kum wenza umzimba wami ikhaya lakho watsho kum ngaphakathi deep inside of me oh ngoma ndini wandiphatha ndaguquka soze ndiphinde ndive into enjengalena oh stand sound uyingoma uyingoma ngoma uyingoma ngoma ingoma bilapha kumbe mfubeni ingoma mnandi ingoma ngathi kiyawo ingoma ngathi
It is Thandiswa Mazwai coming through with Ingoma, where she is fondly referred to by her very many fans across the continent and internationally as King Ta. She's got a brand new record that came out at the beginning of the year, and of course is celebrating a very stellar career that has been sustained now well over 2 decades from its beginnings with the group Bongo Muffin. It's just gone 13 minutes past 1 o'clock, so approaching 1:15 on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. I hope you are having an incredible day thus far, counting the hours until we can get some of that petrol relief. Yes, if you can hold on for another day and a half, the petrol and diesel prices are set to go down on the first Wednesday of the month, which would be midnight tomorrow. We can debate as to when is midnight tomorrow, but yes, that is happening. That is the event of the week, I think. We've got lots of show coming up today. We are talking with Andrew Fulton, who's with 80/20, and we're unpacking a conversation around finances and whether or not there's too much month left at the end of your money. And I think a lot of South Africans can concur with this. And I want Andrew to also, as part of this conversation, help us realistically understand this installment to income ratio, which speaks to the fact that if you are in debt in the region of 30% and above, that you could already be in financial trouble, and it's unsustainable for you to be able to conduct your finances healthy. Given where we are as South Africans, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of us are indebted well into 80% and above, if not completely 100% and above. Also coming up today, stages, pages, screens and more. We're going to be catching up with the folks at the Living Arts Emporium, and they've got a Women's Month exhibition that is opening up. They'll tell us more about that. That's happening in the first hour of the show. On the other side of 2 o'clock, because it is Tuesday, and on the other side of 2, we take a health and wellness focus. We are getting the details on this new study that shows that TB diagnosis and drug-resistant testing can be reduced to just 23 hours. We'll find out more from this from Dr. Widad, who's with UCT's Faculty of Health Sciences. That's coming up after 2. I'll tell you what else is coming up after 2, closer to that time. For now, though, our lines are open as we engage this conversation of whether or not there's too much month left at the end of your money. And how do you feel as a South African, as, someone leading your household and managing and running your household finances? How do you feel about the overall cost of living in South Africa right now? And what steps do you think perhaps, we could take in order for us to cope with the rising expenses versus our very stagnant salary growth? We celebrate these days if your employer is managing to give you an increase in the region of 5 to 6%, because some people haven't seen increases in years, and some people have seen minimal. You can't even call them increases, because what do you do with 2, 3, 4%? Really, it's not even matching inflation, let alone beating inflation. So we're going to have that conversation. How do you feel about the overall cost of living in South Africa, and how do you go about managing your own rising expenses versus your stagnant salary growth? Or maybe you're one of those fortunate people who work for banks, and have seen some real tangible increases. 086 000 2032 and 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line. Feel free to send through your WhatsApp voice note. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come right back.
Okay. So what do we have here? A new dub telenovela on S3? The last one was absolutely amazing. So let's see what this one's about. Paloma, a seamstress and single mother, receives the wrong test results and finds out that she only has 6 months to live. Interesting. She decides to live her best life and do things that she never had the courage to do. Understandable. Paloma unexpectedly finds love from a stranger she slept with. I see. She finds out that she received the wrong results and decides to meet the man who actually has 6 months to live? Wait, what? And right there, I know I'm hooked. Channel your inner drama with Bomb Successful, A Life Worth Living. Weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Hi, my name is Camogelo and I'm a lifesaver. Through a chance encounter with the DKMS Africa team at a nearby mall, I decided to register to become a stem cell donor and potentially give someone else a second chance at life. Every life is precious, and after I was made aware that I could give someone else a second chance at life, all it took to register was 3 swabs, a quick and easy process. You too could be a potential lifesaver in the making. Register to become a stem cell donor at dkmsafrica.org.
Paying your TV license means that you can tune in to the Espresso Morning Show from 6 to 9 a.m. Mondays to Fridays right here on S3. Enjoy our entertainment, recipes, and important current affairs and updates. All of this for less than 74 cents a day or 265 Rand for an entire year. For superfast, secure, and convenient payment from any device, go onto tvlrc.co.za and click on the Fast Pay button for payment in under 3 minutes. Make a difference with Espresso and TV licenses and pay yours.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
We are catching up now with Andrew Fulton, who's the director at 8020. And in recent reports, the financial strain on South Africans has been widely documented. 8020, South Africa's leading consumer insights and data science firm, highlights the significant impact of formal debt installments on South African consumers. So the question on the table is there too much month left at the end of your money? And we're going to unpack some of what Andrew and his colleagues have captured by way of data and, of course, told us all about in this article. It's Andrew Fulton on the line. How are you?
Hi, Bridget. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for making the time. Let's talk about, or maybe let's start with understanding, because you make reference to what is called the installment to income. What is that exactly? I think that's probably very important for us to understand so that we can understand all the data that you're about to share.
Yeah, no, it's a really important concept, and it's the reason we wrote the article. I mean, the one thing we noticed in our research in this over the years is that South Africans do pay a significant amount towards their debt repayments, and there's not a consistent definition of those terms or consistent methodology on how to measure it. So the one that we use, we call it installment to net income ratio, and basically it's a calculation on your net monthly income, not your gross. So we remove taxes, and it's basically what percentage of your net income goes towards paying for the installments on your mortgage, your retail accounts, your unsecured credit, and all those other loan obligations you have.
So it takes into account all the loan obligations that a consumer might have, not just the stuff that people might term, good debts like bonds and cars and things of that nature.
Exactly. I mean, it contains all formal debt. So that's the big difference, is formal versus informal debt. And then there's also, I guess, a category of other debt. But formal debt would include home loans and vehicle asset finance, which I'm guessing you would call good debt. It's building assets. And then credit card, retail, and unsecured credit, which some people refer to as bad debt, but I mean it's just debt. We all need our credit cards. We all need a little bit of extra money to kind of get things going at the end of the month. So it's in my mind, it's neither good nor bad. It's just how you work with it and make sure that it doesn't become a stress in your life.
Let's also maybe unpack some of those primary factors that are contributing to the high installment to income ratios, because you did say that they are significantly high among South Africans.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the reason we wrote this article is we've been tracking this for 2 years, and as you mentioned earlier, we do see groups of people with 80%, 100% debt to income ratios, which people say that can't be possible. How do they live? So what we really wanted to do was just understand: is it really as high as we've been saying, and what are some of the reasons why? So one of the reasons, the big reason why it's so bad right now is higher borrowing costs. So we've had 10 consecutive interest rate hikes, which has brought the prime lending rate from 7% to 11.75 in a period of 18 months. So a very rapid move. Something as simple as that. If you'd bought a 1.5 million rand small flat in Claremont, for instance, if you bought that mid-2021, you'd be looking at paying almost 3,500 rand per month more than when you bought that property just to hold on to it now in 2024. So it's that kind of stuff that really impacts, obviously the other two issues are there's been a very high cost of living situation right now with inflation rising. We've seen in food inflation reaching about 8% every year. And then, as you mentioned earlier, also stagnant, generally low salary growth. Debtbusters suggests that spending power has diminished 47% since 2016 because of the impact of inflation, food, petrol, electricity, medical aid, and school fees.
Sure. So with those factors then in the back of our minds, the high lending costs, inflation, cost of living, et cetera, when we then take this installment to income ratio versus real life, does it present a situation that's almost redundant then? Because, South Africans by and large have to just keep peddling on whether they have or don't have.
No. And I mean, that really is part of that conversation around good debt versus bad debt. Good debt versus bad debt. When I think about, I have a mortgage and therefore I feel good about that because I'm building this asset, but I'm in a very lucky position that I can feed my children at the end of the month. And if I was faced with, hungry children who couldn't go to school in a uniform, I would certainly take out what some refer to as bad debt to make sure that they had full bellies and got to school in the right outfit. So that's the reality of South Africa is we've had high inflation. We haven't had huge salary growth. It's very tough for a lot of people. And when somebody comes by and says, you can buy that new outfit or you could pay for that meal today, it's incredibly tempting to kind of do that without thinking clearly what you're going to pay back at the end and how long that's going to take you, or if you can.
You also write, Andrew, that the middle class and heavy hitters, the middle class and heavy hitters segment exhibit even higher average ratios of 56% and 63% respectively. What does this speak to?
Yeah, so what we did is we tried to figure out what was the most accurate way to look at this, and one of the challenges is that once again, as I mentioned, the methodology. So when you look at average, average has got three components. It can be a median, a mean, or a mode, and the average often is a bit misleading. So, for instance, if we looked at the listeners of your show and we wanted to look at their average income, we would divide all of their salaries by the number of listeners you have.
Okay.
Now, that would be fine unless you had Elon Musk as one of your listeners. He makes 1.8 trillion rand a month. That would mean that the average salary for your listener would be on average maybe 6 million rand per year, which is ludicrous. That's not a realistic way of looking at it, although it is the most common.
Yeah.
So what we said is let's look at the median, which is the middle number. So you count to half of your listeners, and where that sits, that's the median income, which often is much more useful to use in a highly unequal society like South Africa, where you've got a few outliers at the top end. So what we did is we said, okay, well, let's take a heavy hitter, for instance, median income 42,000 rand a month. Median taxes they pay is about 9,000 of that, so that gives them 33,000 rand net income.
Yeah.
But they pay 22,000 of that towards home loans, vehicle asset finance, credit card, and other debt. So yeah, in that typical example is 66% of their net income is going towards their paying off their debt.
They did. Yeah. And I guess that would speak directly to, what we always say when we joke amongst ourselves generationally on social media, where people will go, the working class of this country primarily is composed of middle-aged millennials who are the engine of the economy, who sit right there in that middle income bracket that you just spoke about.
Yeah. And so, I mean, what I was pointing out there is actually the heavy hitters. The middle income are closer sort of 15 to 25,000, 30,000.
Oh.
And they're much worse off, because one of the challenges for the middle class in this country is, they make too much money to get sort of government health, and they don't want their kids to go to some of the government schools. So they aspire to this private health, private security, private all those things, but they don't have the salaries to necessarily afford them. So when all those increases come along, and then all of a sudden they've got to get an inverter or solar, sort out their water, for instance. That gets overwhelming. And what's challenging with the 53% that these people are paying towards their formal debt, that doesn't include school fees. That doesn't include rates and taxes. That doesn't include overdrafts. There's a whole bunch of things that aren't included in that. So, when we did our other calculations, it was quite frightening just how little money is left for each of these individuals in the middle class.
Wow, I'm actually quite shocked that it doesn't include things like school fees, because I thought that would have been, right up there. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
continue
it's not
the conversation on the other side of this. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on if you want to share your perspective. 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. Hearing our conversation with Andrew Fulton, how do you more or less feel about the overall cost of living in South Africa right now? And are you managing to cope with all these rising expenses? And of course, considering that the likelihood is you aren't quite where you would desire to be within your earnings, from your salary and your work packages. But how are you managing to cope through everything? 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line for you to send through your voice notes. Madupi is standing by with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines this hour, the Incredible Happenings Church of well-known South African pastor Paseka Mboro has been vandalized and set alight by angry residents of Katlehong. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, meanwhile, has condemned the violent incident at the school, and U.S. President Joe Biden says that he has discussed steps to protect U.S. forces in the Middle East after a suspected rocket attack wounded several American personnel in Iraq. Details of these and other stories, 2 o'clock.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Our lines are open if you want to be a part of this conversation as we talk about perhaps there being too much month left at the end of our money as South Africans. 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on. How are you managing to cope with the consistent rising expenses between the household obligations, your bond, your rent, your car repayment, school fees, medical aid, groceries, petrol, life insurance, in case other things happen, insurance, and everything that falls in between just living for 30 days of the month? Are you managing to cope at all, or are you just holding on at this point in time and hoping for some kind of relief that would hopefully it comes before this year is over, by way of reversing back some of those interest rates? Give us a shout on 086 000 2032 and 061 410 4107 is our WhatsApp line. We are in conversation with Andrew Fulton, Director of 8020. All right, Andrew, as we continue our conversation, let's talk about the impact that recent interest rates have had on just the financial stability of young adults in South Africa, young folks who may or may not be entering the workforce for the first time home buyers. What did your research and your data tell us about this cohort?
Yeah, we didn't specifically focus on them for this research, but we have in the past. So I can certainly speak anecdotally and from past research about that. I mean, one of the challenges also, for these people is, are they going to buy a house or are they going to rent a house for the rest of their lives? And property prices have gone up quite dramatically, not in real terms, but certainly in current prices they've gone up. They seem unaffordable relative to their salaries. One thing we've noticed with our employees at 80/20 is they all have nicer cars than the directors because they can't afford to live. They can't afford to buy a house in the area they want to live in, so they rent, which means they've got a bit of disposable income which they'll spend on a car because they can get a nice car with a long financing term. So that's one thing is this move maybe more to kind of life experiences, holidays, technology, and vehicles, as opposed to maybe buying a house, which may be a good or a bad thing. I mean, the world is changing, so maybe owning property isn't as good as it was when our parents were saying we must do that. But certainly, what we're also noticing is a lot of jumping around in jobs to kind of get that increase in salary, because obviously it's sometimes easier to get a salary increase by moving to another company than within the one you're already in. But I mean, overall in South Africa, we even noticed down at that sort of mass credit market side, a lot of debt being taken on, maybe less financial fluency around what that means. So therefore getting into some difficult debt situations, not understanding, maybe the balloon payment on a car it's a massive payment waiting for you at the end of this loan. There's a lot of things that I'd say they're battling with these first time people that are new to the credit market.
Right. Let's go to WhatsApp. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. If you'd like to share your personal experience and perspective of how you are managing to cope right now with the rising cost of living in the country. Perhaps you're not coping at all. And of course, you can always stay anonymous if you want to, or if you choose to do so. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call if you want to go live. Call us on.
Hi, I'm reporting an accident on M1 North.
410-4107 is just wrong voice note that we played there, but we're going to get the right one for now. Let's go to Anonymous. How are you in Pretoria? You've been holding for a while. Are you good?
Yeah, fine. How are you, Kathy?
It's Bridget. I'm okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kathy,
it's
like
Bridget.
For instance, people, they have various things that they don't, like for instance, which they cannot cope with. Like for instance, sometimes we can cope, sometimes we cannot cope. It all depends on the situation and so on. But in the communities, there's a thing already that is happening. That is Spot FMA. It's not an organization, Spot FMA. It's like spotting your neighbor and so on. Like for instance, I've met someone at ShopRite.
061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's go to WhatsApp.
This is Bridget, Casey here in the south. Look, this Bridget, it's very, very almost impossible to stay afloat in this economy. Just the other day, I heard rumors of, Eskom possibly increasing the tariff. I mean, as it is, we are struggling with electricity. So if it's going up again, I mean, what does that mean? It's a very tough one. One wonders when NESA agrees with such tariffs, they agree based on what? Do they look at our affordability, or as long as Eskom says we need certain amount of money to cover this and that, so therefore we need to increase tariffs. Is it how it goes? So yeah, man, that's a tough one. Electricity is very, very expensive, and it's not even like it's always there. We have load shedding, load reduction, whatever. So yeah, man, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, when we talk of affordability, Andrew, and one, I think as South Africans, we do sometimes think to ourselves, well, do they consider whether or not we'll be able to manage? Do they even understand that we're on the brink of breaking right now as South Africans? I know these questions have been leveled towards the Reserve Bank governor, the outrage every time he comes on our screens every quarter, where people go, well, are you really in touch with whether or not South Africans are able to afford at this point?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I need to separate two different things. When we were dealing with affordability in our research, it was around the banks and the financial institutions looking at your affordability for your next loan. And yes, absolutely, they do need to look at that. And that includes your net monthly income, your living expenses, including school fees and groceries, etc., what your existing debt obligations are, and then the new loan repayment amount. So they do some debt to income calculations, and they do assess whether or not you can afford this loan. But the incentives are a little bit off. The bank wants to get you a loan, and you want the loan. So sometimes you can move those numbers in a certain direction to kind of get the outcome you want, which is that loan for that immediate gratification or that immediate problem. But it might not be the truth. And as we saw, with 10 interest rate increases, all of a sudden that affordability goes out the window because everything has gone up so much in price. Though you have passed that affordability.
I was actually going to ask you, because in the article, you do highlight the fact that financial institutions are supposed to ensure that new lenders, can afford the repayments, right? And this is part of the National Credit Act. But I almost think without having the data and without having the expertise, as you've just alluded, that a lot of institutions skirt on the side of, well, how can we bend the rules and how can we navigate around this to make it work?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to get too much into that because that's a whole can of worms that I'm not qualified to speak of. But I can absolutely see that there must be some institutions out there that are fudging it a little bit worse than others. Yeah. I'd like to believe that our big five banks are doing it responsibly, and we do see that they are actually, because of impairment rates, turning off the funnels in terms of new loans. So they're certainly turning some people back, but it's also another challenge is you just don't have the complete picture.
Yeah.
If you've got a dual income household, your financial situation personally can look quite good, whereas your partner is on 100% debt to income ratio. So there's many ways to game any system, and like I said, because the incentives are not aligned perfectly, it can get people into trouble. For sure.
Absolutely. Andrew Fulton, we appreciate the time with you today. That was Andrew Fulton, Director at 8020. It's just gone 22 at 2 o'clock. We'll try and squeeze in one or two of your voice notes on the other side of our next conversation. For now, though, let's take a quick pause and then we'll come back and we'll get into stages, pages, screens and more.
Nothing beats the feeling of relaxing on your couch after a long, hard day, getting rid of those work clothes and feeling the freedom of being in your PJs. Throwing off that lace front, undoing your hair, that makeup, voila, gone. It's going to be a quiet, relaxed night. Well, not on S3. Bring a whole lot of vroom to your weeknights with Top Gear Season 16. Monday to Wednesday at 10 p.m. and Top Gear specials such as Top Gear from A to Z and Top Gear The Races. Friday nights from 9 to 11 p.m. Channel your inner vroom with BBC Primetime. Only on S3. Open up.
Babina Noko returns to the battlefield with a great strategy to display a melody of victory. But the citizens are shaking their heads. Eric Tinkler's boys are confident that they will land successfully in the last four. This is the MTN 8 quarter-final. Wafa Wafa. Catch Sekhukhune United FC and Cape Town City FC on Saturday, 10 August at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC 1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. # We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener? We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. Bridget Masinga on SAFM. Stages, pages, screens, and more on the Full Circle.
If it's not a favorite of yours by now, I don't know why it isn't. Stages, pages, screens, and more. And we're catching up with Gabby Mbata, who's the gallery manager of Living Arts Emporium. They've got a open exhibition called Izingqalabutho. And Gabby is going to tell us a bit more about this exhibition that's taking place the entire month of August. How are you doing?
Bridget, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Gabby, and thank you for taking the time. All right, let's get firstly into the title of this exhibition. Unpack for us the meaning.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. And I'd also like to say hello to all the listeners of the Full Circle. So to answer your question, Izingqalabutho basically means pioneers in isiZulu.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely a tribute to our beautiful, powerful, and pioneering women.
Lovely.
Now, I don't think that is a very common word.
Not at all.
I think I only found out about it when we were in the brainstorming session of our Women's Month open exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to have a name that had like a whole lot of gravitas.
Yeah.
And we were throwing words around like Mbogoto. We love Mbogoto. We love what it means, but I feel like it's been used a lot. Amakawega has also been used a lot. And so we threw around a couple of words and I learned a new word, which was Izingqalabutho. And when you look at that word, it like literally, when you break it down in isiZulu, you can see that it basically means somebody who starts something from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and a lot of our women are like that, are they not?
That
they are able to make something out of nothing.
Yeah, that they are. Let's talk about, and you say that this is a tribute to,
Yes.
the beautiful, powerful, and pioneering women. So let's talk about the exhibition,
Mm-hmm.
and what or how that speaks to that by way of whether the artists that are going to be exhibiting or the works that they're going to be showcasing.
So it embodies both. And what we are at Living Artists Emporium is we are a creative platform. And so we're not your typical wide cube gallery.
Yeah.
So I feel that even in what we do and our ethos and our business and how we operate, we are definitely pioneering. And the people on our platform are so incredible in terms of celebrating the women in their lives, and not just only in August, but throughout the entire year and over the years.
Yeah.
And so what we wanted to do here was to speak about the women in our lives and what they have done to be able to forge paths ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Open up doors that have never been opened up before, kick down doors if necessary, and also respect and pay tribute to the men who have also been able to do so. So it's not just Women's Month in the traditional sense of the word, but we're also embracing the men who embrace the women for Women's Month and across the entire year, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. By way of some of the exhibitors, and of course we don't have time to go through all the artists, but maybe you can give us just a short highlight reel of 2 or 3.
Yes. So we have some female artists. So you've got your Diesel, your Ayanda Nkosi, but we also have artists like Danisile Njoli, Calvin Dube, John Nkosi, Mbongeni Mhlongo, Shadrach Bosman, who are really, really instrumental in celebrating women. And I think one artist that I would like to highlight here in terms of Women's Month is Danisile Njoli. And Danny Njoli he actually literally goes around the community taking photographs of children and women.
Yeah.
And he celebrates women because he says they're the mothers of society. And he celebrates children because they're our future. And I think we all know that as mothers. And then he'll take photographs of those and then paint them in his own Danny way. But it doesn't only end there. Then what he does is he'll take a piece and donate it to an anti-GBV charity. And we all know that gender-based violence is a scourge in our country at the moment. And that charity is then able to auction it off. And with the proceeds that they get, they're then able to garner those funds and plow them back into their charity to then fight against a scourge.
Wonderful. We love it.
Yes.
Art with a very tangible cause. We love
Absolutely.
artists that, and considering, oftentimes how artists are often themselves struggling just to make ends meet. So when artists are conscious of the world around them and the responsibility that comes with their work and pay it forward, it's always a beautiful thing to see. So this exhibition is running the entire month. It opened on the 1st and it's running all the way through to the 31st. Just in our final note, are you planning perhaps anything in between? Because a month is a long run. So are you planning to engage audiences by way of walkabouts or anything of the sort?
We are indeed. We're inviting all the, any consumer of art to come through to our premises. We are at the Ellis Park Arena in New Doornfontein. And so you can come through, you can walk about. We will welcome you with open arms, and then you can just have a guided tour, or you can walk through our gallery however you choose to. But so if you want a guided tour, you're more than welcome to get one. If you want to walk through, you're also more than welcome to do that.
Lovely. Gabby, thank you so much for the time. That was Gabby Mbata, Gallery Manager of Living Arts Emporium, and that exhibition is running until the 31st of August at the Ellis Park Arena. Izingqalabuto is what it's titled, a tribute to beautiful, powerful and pioneering woman, featuring a host of artists. And of course, all the works also up for sale. There's exciting stuff happening within that Ellis Park district. There's also a wonderful art house there called Ellis House. If you ever get the opportunity, it's just down the road from Ellis Park Arena to go to Ellis House, and it houses some really phenomenal creatives. Up until recently, Tebe Magugu's studio was also there, and now he's opened in Hyde Park, but it has some of my favorites. Ryan Shava is housed there. There's quite a few noted and celebrated artists that call it home. So if you find yourself in that precinct, and then just a stone's throw away is Victoria Yards. If you've never been to Victoria Yards, there is something for you to do on a beautiful Saturday or Sunday. Trust me, it's worth the drive getting there. It's just gone 10:02. It's time for us to get into Kids Corner, which will run us till the top of the hour with Madupi Makhalamela bringing you the news.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Arham Ahmed. I am 9 years old and I go to Brixton Pioneer School.
Yes, I have helped with gardening. I like seeing the plants grow and bloom, but I don't like dealing with bugs. As plants grow, they get bigger, develop leaves, and eventually produce flowers or fruits. It's important to take care of plants because they need water, sunlight, nutrients to grow healthy and strong. I feel more relaxed and refreshed after spending time outside compared to being on my phone or computer, which can make me feel tired. I enjoy planting seeds, watering plants, and picking fruits or vegetables.
Good day. My name is Dembe Mofe. I'm 7 years old. I haven't helped in gardening before, but I'm interested in it. What I dislike about gardening is when sand gets in my eyes and I can't see properly. And I don't like the worms in the garden. What I think happens to plants as they grow is the process of photosynthesis. It's important to take care of plants because plants gives us food, energy, and oxygen. After I spend time outside, I feel refreshed compared to when I spend time on my computer. Few things that I like doing in the garden: I like playing, I like planting flowers, I like feeding worms to birds. When I spend time in the garden, it benefits me by increasing my happiness when I look at plants.
My name is Dembe Ramad. If I could plant something at home in the yard, I would plant a strawberry and berry tree because I would love people to be healthy. Yes, I do feel as children we must participate in garden work because vegetables are healthy for our bodies. The vegetable that I like the most is a cucumber. What healthy food looks like most of the times, you would normally have lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers.
Good day, everyone. My name is Amangazo Menyana. Well, I would want to plant roses because roses are very nice and it has a beautiful scent. And it is also very red. And I love the color red. Well, I think that some children would like to play like video games, so they won't love doing gardening. Well, I do love doing gardening. I do not like eating vegetables, but my favorite vegetable would probably be broccoli. And I do eat healthy, but I will eat some candy now and then. But I won't always eat candy.
Hi, my name is Asanda Chabalala. I had to plant something at home in my yard. I would plant roses because they smell very nice. Yes, I do think we would eat more vegetables because the vegetables look and taste yummy. The vegetables I like is carrots and broccoli, and the ones I don't like are mushrooms and onions.
Good day, my name is Monet Angel. Yes, I have helped and I've been interested in gardening. What I like about gardening is that you get to learn more about plants and the benefits that they have around our environment. And what I think happens to plants as they grow is that some of them happen to grow into flowers or herbs that can be used to produce medicines. Why I think it's important to take care of them is that we need to take care of plants on a daily basis because we need them, especially nowadays as people struggle with oxygen or finding medication. Plants can be there to help with that issue. How I do feel after spending time outside, like in a garden, compared to spending time on electronics, is that I feel resilient, I feel calm and relaxed because of the oxygen that we get from the plants around us. A few things that I enjoy doing in a garden is planting new crops and literally cleaning around the environment or where I have crops that my grandma might be growing, and also getting to learn more about the crops that we are growing. The benefits that I think we could get as children from spending time there is that we can also learn about the animals or the small insects that live in the plants, or some of the things that we can use the plants for that we are growing. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Hello friends and happy Tuesday. Let's have a chat about gardening, shall we? Do you like spending time in the garden? Gardening is a fun and healthy activity that many of us as children can enjoy. One of the great things about it is that it helps you learn about nature and the environment. By planting seeds and watching them grow, you can see firsthand how plants develop and where food comes from. This hands-on experience helps you appreciate nature and understand the importance of taking care of our planet. Gardening also encourages physical activity. Instead of staying indoors and playing video games, you can be outside digging the dirt, watering plants, and pulling out weed. This kind of exercise is good for your body, helping you stay fit and strong. Plus, being outside in the fresh air and sun can boost your mood and well-being. In addition to these benefits, gardening can help you develop important life skills. When you plant a garden, you learn about responsibilities as you care for living plants every day. You start to practice qualities like patience as you wait for the plants to grow. You also learn problem-solving skills as you figure out how to deal with pests or plants that aren't doing well. These skills are valuable and will help you in many other areas of life. Some of you might feel like gardening is boring. Gardening can be a way for us as children to spend quality time with our families. Working together in the garden can strengthen family bonds and create lasting memories. Together with our parents, we can share the joy of seeing our garden thrive and enjoy the fruits and vegetables of our labor together at mealtime. Not only that, but gardening can be a source of pride and accomplishment for us as children. When you see the plants that you have cared for grow and produce flowers or food, you will feel a sense of achievement. This can boost our confidence and self-esteem, making us feel capable and proud of our hard work. Gardening provides numerous advantages for us as children. It educates us about the environment, promotes exercise, enhances essential life abilities, reinforces family connections, and increases our self-esteem. Through participating in gardening, we can blossom in various beneficial aspects, similar to the plants we care for.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
The top stories at 2 o'clock. Pastor Mboro's church, satellite, and Biden plans to protect U.S. forces in the Middle East. A very good afternoon. The Incredible Happenings Church of well-known South African pastor Paseka Mboro has been vandalized and set alight by angry residents of Katlehong in the east of Joburg. This after the pastor and 2 other men wielding pangas violently threatened teachers and learners at Matsiliso Primary. Police have confirmed that 4 suspects have been arrested in connection with the incident and are expected to appear in court tomorrow. Sowetan newspaper reporter Gwena Mashale, who has been following the story closely, is on the scene.
The church has been set alight. There is actually nothing left of the church currently. It's literally just scrap metal that is sticking out of the ground, the things that used to actually hold down the tent. That's the only thing that's left. Probably like part of the stage is the only thing that's also left. There is literally nothing, as also the scrap collectors also came to take what they can while the firefighters are still trying to put out some of the smoke and flames on the ground.
Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has meanwhile condemned the violent incident at the school yesterday, which was believed to be related to a conflict between 2 families over the custody of learners enrolled at the school. Mchunu briefed the media in Boksburg on the sidelines of the last day of the ANC Lekgotla.
The incident yesterday in a primary school in Katlehong, it's something that we condemn. When a community leader or a citizen carries what appears to be firearms and a bush knife, go to an institution like education for whatever reason, brandish such things like a panga and cause commotion because that causes anxiety among children and among parents of other children. We condemn that, and we know that police are dealing with it. They've arrested 4 people, and we are hoping that more arrests will come as it becomes necessary.
The Phoenix Community Policing Forum says it is working closely with the police to track down the armed men involved in a brazen daytime heist of a jewelry store late last month. The robbers opened fire on the police at the Phoenix Plaza shopping mall on the north of Durban, injuring an officer on duty. Phoenix CPF spokesperson Valencia Pillay says they've been holding regular meetings with all stakeholders to make sure that such crimes can be addressed.
We are partnering with SAP. There are other role players trying to fight the crime, such as our security companies. They also play a very important role. And together we plan operations. We try to be visible and create that awareness around crime. So there's always meetings taking place in the boardrooms, out of the boardrooms, just to make sure that we come up with plan of action. We try to keep abreast and ahead of their plans. So there is always those discussions taking place.
The problem of Zimbabwe can only be solved by Zimbabweans themselves. This is according to EFF leader Julius Malema. He was responding to tough questions from Rhodes University students after addressing a public lecture at the institution.
You need a clear position from SADC which gives the timelines that by this time this should have happened. But otherwise, Mnangagwa is going to come back and he's got nothing to offer at all. So Chiwenga is done. He will not be anything. They used him. Chiwenga is no longer the most powerful military man in Zimbabwe now. They've weakened him. So only the power of the youth of Zimbabwe can change the political status quo. And the Zimbabweans have to know that we are with them.
And U.S. President Joe Biden says he's discussed steps to protect U.S. forces in the Middle East after a suspected rocket attack wounded several American personnel in Iraq. No group has admitted carrying out the strike on an airbase. More from the BBC's Hugo Bachega.
2 rockets hit inside this base. At least 5 U.S. personnel have been injured, including soldiers and contractors. This happens as this entire region is waiting for this possible Iranian response to the assassination that happened in Tehran last week of Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas political chief. And there's also the expectation of a response from Hezbollah to the assassination of a senior Hezbollah commander.
The top story at 2 o'clock, the Incredible Happenings Church of well-known South African pastor Paseka Motsweneng has been vandalized and set alight by angry residents of Katlehong on the east of Joburg. The Full Circle continues. For SAFM News, Kemudupi Makhalemeli.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
Many insurers claim to be the best, but the proof is in the numbers. Outsurance has consistently had the best ombudsman for short-term insurance results for the past 11 years. And Outsurance clients always get something out. Outsurance pays over 1.7 million rand in out bonuses every day. So why would you want to be with anyone else? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754, or visit outsurance.co.za for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's do apply.
Winners, finalists, fan favorites, and viral sensations from previous seasons of America's Got Talent return to the stage to compete for the All-Star title. Join Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, and Simon Cowell as they decide who is the best of the best. The creme de la creme, the top dog, is in Chamatota. It's a festival of talent on America's Got Talent All-Stars. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. Channel your best entertainment with America's Got Talent All-Stars. Only on S3. Open up.
Babina Noko returns to the battlefield with a great strategy to display a melody of victory. But the citizens are shaking their heads. Eric Tinkler's boys are confident that they will land successfully in the last 4.
This is the MTN 8 quarter-final. Wafa Wafa.
Catch Sikukune United FC and Cape Town City FC on Saturday, 10 August at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
#We love it here.
Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
It is something Soweto coming through with Sebenzelanina. That is how we kick off the second hour of the show. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga. And of course, on a Tuesday after 2, we take a health and wellness focus. Today, the doctor is not in the house, but the doctor is here to help us understand and break down in the simplest forms this new study that shows that TB diagnosis and drug-resistant testing can now be reduced to just 23 days. Admittedly, when I read through some of the information pack in preparation for our conversation, Dr. Woodard, I was quite lost. And I think, my simple mind could not comprehend and wrap itself around some of the medical terminology and jargon. But I guess this is why we have you on the line, Dr. Woodard Zamani, joining us now, who's the study's co-author and research coordinator at UCT's Faculty of Health Sciences. How are you doing this afternoon?
Hi there. I'm good. Yourself, Bridget?
I'm fabulous. Thank you. Cannot complain. Like I said, having read through some of the findings and some of the study, I think I'm just as lost now as I was getting into the information pack. Perhaps let's start off with the most simplest question, us understanding what the study entailed and what was the driving motivation behind its undertaking.
Sure. I think I'm going to start off with just giving credit where credit is due, and that is to the lead author, which is Chad Sentner, and he is currently at the WHO. He's moved on to there, and also the main author, which is Professor Helen Cox, at the University of Cape Town. So I wanted to just give them credit because this study would not have been possible without their, forward thinking and realizing the importance of what it is that we looked at. So just to maybe take a step back, to understand the importance of the study, one needs to understand what the current situation is in South Africa. So currently, what we do is, or what we used to do is, we essentially take, at least in the Western Cape, you take 2 sputums. When somebody presents with potential TB, symptoms and so on, and so the one sputum would be sent for, the routine diagnostic on the Gene Expert machine, which I'm not sure if you recall, but a good few years ago, about 10, 15 years ago, it was rolled out in South Africa and made headlines in that we were able to diagnose TB within, 2 hours versus, waiting 6 weeks, for a culture. So fast forward this to now, and also looking at drug-resistant TB as opposed to just TB itself. This specific or the current system, what it was doing was the second sputum, once you then first diagnose the person that is positive on the first sputum, they then would take the second sputum and go and do another culture. They would do another test, and that could take up to 20-odd days, right? So that whole system. In the meantime, that person is out in the community, and could increase. There could be a direct increase in transmission, so on and so forth. So what this specific assay does is that we, instead of now waiting for a second sputum, we use the leftover from the normal Gene Expert that I explained to you earlier on. We just use the leftover sample from that, and we put it on also a Gene Expert machine, but looking at a drug-resistant TB, or looking for drug-resistant TB.
Dr. Widard, if I may, just before we proceed to even understand now the new testing method, maybe because we are really just the common man trying to understand, and unless you've been diagnosed, perhaps you would not know the protocols of diagnosing. Maybe let's, on that one step backwards, with what was the current testing protocols. So explain to us, you mentioned that you would take, the old method would take 2 sputum samples. Explain to us what that entailed. Yes.
Sure. So you'd walk into the clinic, you'd, you'd be show symptoms of TB. At that time, they would take 2 sputums, at least in the Western Cape. At our other sites, and in the rest of Africa,
and sputums being
South Africa. Sputum, saliva, the ones that you cough up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the saliva, not the saliva itself, but a coughing, like a deep cough, if you will.
All right.
Coughing out the sputum itself. So essentially, the reason I'm using this 2 sputum idea so that you can understand the concept of delaying the second sputum. So let's just go with what happens in the Western Cape, just for argument's sake.
Sure.
So the 2 sputums would come from the clinic, okay? It's linked to patient X. The sample arrives at the clinic, or rather it arrives at the laboratory. At the laboratory, they take the first sputum
and they put it on a gene expert, right? Which is a machine that can diagnose TB in 2 hours, right?
Okay.
Once that, so under normal circumstances, once that would be positive, they then say, okay, this is positive. Now we need to check, is it resistant? So they go back to, they say that person brought in a second sputum. Let's take that second sputum, and now let's go do further assays on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to go and check for that the gene expert can't tell you at this point. The gene expert ultra. That's probably the words that are giving us, you know, they've got these big fancy words.
Mm-hmm.
Gene expert ultra basically is just going to tell you whether you've got TB or not, right? And then all of these other assays that they do, also fancy words like line probe assay, phenotypic testing, it's just basically culture, if you will. And they will tell you what other, it's positive now, but are you resistant to any other drugs? Is it a drug-resistant TB? Yes or no? So that process can take more than 20 days. And on average, 15 days. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And so what we've done is, although 2 sputums have come in for that patient X, the third sputum, once it's gone on to Gene Expert Ultra, there's a little bit left over. Not the entire mixture is used for the assay. There's a little bit left over. Instead of going to go and get that second sputum, we just use the leftover from the assay that tells you whether you've got TB or not.
Yes.
Right? Then we take the leftover from that, we immediately put it into another, it was a little cartridge, you know, that will then, into a similar machine, also called the Gene Expert, but now testing for whether you've got drug-resistant TB.
I see.
Right. So literally going, instead of now, imagine you would go down into the lab, go get the second sputum, now you have to go do a week's worth of testing and so on. All you've replaced that with is you've taken the leftover from this person that's tested positive, you put it on a new cartridge. Within another few hours, you've got your results, and you can provide that result to the clinician for management. Now you can imagine that the period of the difference in time is what we're referring to. So the one method takes an average about 15 days.
Yeah.
And we've shown that this can take 23 hours, and you'll have whether the person is drug resistant or not.
And tell me, Dr. Widad, it might sound like yet another, simple question, but bear with us.
Not at all.
What is it about the current method that or why was the current method so cumbersome in time? If the sputum samples were there anyway and could be utilized for the second test?
It was just the nature of the assays that were long. Unfortunately, that's the nature of the assays that took long. Whereas this assay, it takes 2 hours to give the same results that those assays that took a week.
Okay. Let's pause here for a quick break, and then we'll come back on the other side and continue our conversation with Dr. Widad as she explains and runs us through this new study and some of the results and what the impact that is then going to be for TB diagnosis as well as drug-resistant TB diagnosis in the country and worldwide moving forward. It's just gone 20 past 2 o'clock.
SA Women Struggles Journal. #Women's Month. Celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development, SAFM celebrates the power, resilience and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month, and we're honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces and our homes. Join SAFM in recognizing the achievements, strengths and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with Dr. Widad Zamani, who is the co-author and research coordinator at UCT's Faculty of Health Sciences, and of course part of this new groundbreaking study. Dr. Widad, does this also speak sort of the new method of testing and its efficacy? Does it also speak to now perhaps increased diagnostic capabilities, given the fact that you're now able to cut down in time? I'm then assuming you are able to then process more of these sputum samples at faster times and in bigger volumes.
I would think that faster time would get diagnosis to the patient themselves and getting them on the right treatment straight away. That is the direct benefit. So the faster you can diagnose, the faster you can put on treatment, and that would be a direct benefit to the patients themselves. The actual numbers itself, by default, yes, but the primary benefit would be to the patient themselves.
Yeah, and that would speak to sort of a significance in reducing that turnaround time, but also, as you say and allude, then increasing the treatment availability for patients. And I wonder, does that also speak to those who, because you mentioned around those who are resistant to particular strains of drugs, would that also speak to those patients? Are they also able to be diagnosed using this method?
Yeah, so it offers, this specific method offers diagnosis of resistance to multiple drugs that are there or that are available and that are being used. I think also with regards to drug-resistant TB in general, the key is faster diagnosis. Because, a person that is out there that is drug-resistant to or has drug-resistant TB and thereby, spreading it, if you will, out in the community, as long as they don't know that they are or have drug-resistant TB, they're just going to carry on thinking that perhaps this is normal TB, but or even just normal cough for that matter. That's why diagnosis or fast diagnosis is key in this instance.
Yeah. From what I understand, the study was also, testing for the study was also conducted across a few other territories, Tanzania and Zimbabwe as well.
Well,
Mozambique.
The actual consortium, TB CAP. That consortium, we had multiple arms to the consortium, and our arm, or rather the arm that we led as part of the consortium, was mainly in South Africa. So we had two sites, but they were both in South Africa. The other sites were involved in evaluation of other assays, if you will. So keep your eyes peeled, because that's quite exciting as well. And it would be exciting for us, even though it was done elsewhere, it would be exciting for all, everyone involved in TB diagnostics. So essentially, we had two sites here. One was in Cape Town, and the other one was in the Eastern Cape. And I'm not sure if you remember, I told you for the purposes of the explanation, I used the idea of two sputum.
Yes.
Now, that only really happens in the Western Cape. In the rest of South Africa, what happens is that they only provide one sputum, and if it's positive, then they try and make contact with the person again and tell them to come back to provide another sputum for those long assays. Let's call them the long assays.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that the time then to diagnosis for those people, if even diagnosis at all, because only 2 out of 5 people are diagnosed with a drug-resistant TB. And that adds to it, the whole idea of having to recall a patient, especially if you can imagine that they're out in the rural areas and that it takes an entire day or two to get to the clinics and back again.
Yes, and also knowing as well the stigma that often comes with TB because of its association with other diseases.
Correct. And so that's why people, there's that also to deal with. So as I said again, diagnostics is key, and faster diagnostics definitely assisting with drug-resistant TB.
Yeah.
And this specific assay has been or being investigated within South Africa and many other countries for drug-resistant TB since 2020. And what this specific study mainly shows is that there is a definitive decrease in time to diagnosis and or time to treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our last question in our last minute, Dr. Woodard, what are the next steps now that, there's been this exciting development?
Well, I think it's the opportunity that we are presented with to further investigate, especially with our current collaborators, because currently this is for a subset of drug-resistant TB cases, if you will. I think it just opens up the door to investigate. Sorry, I'm trying to do 2 things at once here, and so it's being distracted. Apologies. So I think it opens up the door to be able to investigate other items that contribute to drug resistance. I think already South Africa has implemented the drug resistant, or rather the XDR cartridge that I mentioned.
Yeah.
As we currently have the Gene Expert assays in all of our National Health Laboratory Services labs, if you will. And so being able to add in or purchase an additional cartridge to be able to provide this has already been rolled out, or currently being rolled out, if you will.
We have to leave it there for this afternoon, unfortunately. That was Dr. Woodard Zamani, and she's the co-author and research coordinator at UCT's Faculty of Health Sciences. It's just gone 2:30. Madupi standing by with the headline news.
Thank you very much, Sister Bridge. Good afternoon. In your headlines, Public Works Minister Dean McPherson says the government will hold a summit in September with the private sector to find ways to put an end to the so-called construction mafia. The Incredible Happenings Church of well-known South African pastor Paseka Motsoeneng has been vandalized and set alight by angry residents of Katlehong on the east of Joburg. And Israel's leading human rights organization has condemned Israeli prisons for their treatment of Palestinian detainees. I'll be back with a full news update at 3.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
It is The Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM. If you're looking to check for the time, it's just gone 2:30. If you're on the school run, you're still on time, I think. Do schools still knock off between the hours of 1:30 and 2:30? I think so. So you're still firmly on time. So earlier on, we were chatting to Andrew Fulton, who's the director at 8020, and they were unpacking some data for us that speaks to the fact that South Africans have too much month left at the end of their money, and well over 30-40% of us are, in the red zone of debt by way of the installment to income ratio. And whether or not we can afford the debt that we have. And so the question on the table was, how do you feel about the cost of living in South Africa? And are you able to keep up with the rising cost of living, the rising expenses? Are you able to cope with that? Considering the fact that a lot of us, a vast majority of us, are really just haven't seen the joys of incredible increases that are meeting inflation, let alone surpassing inflation. And so a lot of people are having to deal with 2024 with 2020 salaries. And that's just the truth of the matter, right? A lot of companies just haven't been able to increase salaries, period. And some have managed to give you a tiny little increment of 3% I've heard, 4% I've heard. Some friends in the banking sector were quite jovial last year when they managed to negotiate for their teams increments between 6 and 7%, depending on the banks. I got friends who work in executive positions in all the banks, and they had managed to just get that 6 to 7% increase. But I mean, it's not enough, right? So that was the question. How are you coping with rising expenses? If you are coping or not coping, 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. Let's go to WhatsApp.
Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Good afternoon, Bridget. With the price of bread alone, which has skyrocketed in few years, we are not coping. When you try to think about the electricity hike tariff, it's so painful. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to say. When you try to think, the airtime is up. When you try to even dream, everything seems to be going up, but our salaries are nowhere near. We are just living from hand to mouth. Prima by Prochaglan, thanks you for the question.
What makes me copy is the fact that I've got skills in nursing, so I'm able to go on part-time, or if I see the situation, there's a need that I need extra cash, I just go and make myself available on the agents or on the institution just to get extra cash. And this helps because really with the salary, it's very tough, guys. It's tough. It's really tough. I've got 3 kids. Fees, 2 cars, bond, everything. It's tough, but it's manageable. No, for those extra hours, just to get extra cash slightly, you see. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Bridget Masinga, Mpumalanga, but originally from Limpopo. Bridget, I think South Africans need to be educated. We don't know why these things are being increased. For what good reason? To benefit who? To balance what? You understand? The governance is on our screen. The interest rates are going up. Electricity tariffs are going up. Municipal rates are going up. Why are they going up? Are they going up because they have to go up? Food prices, inflation. Why? For what good reason? Electricity. We've got coal mines in South Africa. Power stations are in South Africa. Electricity is produced in South Africa. So what's the purpose for the electricity tariff to be taken up? Is it for the employees of Eskom to get salary increase or what? Why is everything going up? For what good reason? We need education.
That is a very good question as to why, right? And we don't have the answers for why things go up. And I guess it's frustrating for us as consumers of services, right? As procurers of goods and services. It's frustrating for us because sometimes you honestly wonder, firstly, are you getting bang for your money? And, is there no other way? But then you think about all the arguments that they make when things go up, right? We got to keep up with infrastructure and maintenance. And, and I guess there's also the working human capital within these respective organizations that are also people with households and families and responsibilities who need to earn competitive salaries, and someone it's a rippling effect with no end in sight. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032. Based on our earlier conversation with Andrew Fulton at 8020, how are you managing to cope and keep up with the ever-rising cost to living, with the expenses versus our very stagnant salaries and our constricted economy in South Africa? Lucky are the few, like our second, I didn't catch your name, our second WhatsApp, who said that fortunately for him, he's got scarce skills in nursing, and so when he and his household need to offset some of that monthly budget, he just avails himself for extra shifts in the health sector. That's one way, but I guess a lot of us don't have scarce skills. A lot of South Africans don't have that competitive edge in the workforce to be able to do that. And even though we've spoken so much on this show about the hustle mentality and maybe getting a secondary and a third income source, it's easier said than done. And even when I have those conversations, I know that it's easier said than done, because where do you begin to have a secondary and a third income source, or even start to try and hustle something, if the market that you are offering your goods or your services to just does not have the disposable cash as well to spend on that, because they're in the exact same position as you. So we would continue welcoming your voice notes on this one. How are you coping with the rising expenses? How are you coping with the exorbitantly high cost of living in South Africa? I think we are right up there as one of those countries. I've not seen the data, but I can venture to guess that we are right up there with those countries where the cost of living is incredibly high versus the household income. Blink, it's the 30th of the month, your salary is there. By the 2nd of the month, you've got no money anymore. You're literally in the red. 086-000-2032 and 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and engage a different kind of conversation. But of course, you can keep your voice notes coming.
SA Women Struggles Journal. Hashtag Women's Month. Celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development, SAFM celebrates the power, resilience, and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month, and we're honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces, and our homes. Join SAFM in recognizing the achievements, strengths, and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365, Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, let's catch up with Dr. Lisa Street and Taryn Oomen, who are the co-founders of Ajuda, introducing the future of personalized health care. So the ladies say that, technology continues to shrink the world and migration is becoming easier. Nearly 1 million South Africans immigrated in 2020. And the immigration trend is in recent years has seen hundreds of thousands of South Africans relocating between provinces. And whilst your belongings are very easy for you to pack in the back of a truck or on a shipping container, something even more important is slipping through the cracks, and that is your personal health records. And these two very innovative entrepreneurial women have, decided and got together and innovated on a solution for us. How are you doing, Dr. Lisa? You good?
Good afternoon. Yes, thank you so much for having me on your show. Lovely to chat to you today.
Thank you. And of course, Taryn, you're on the other side. How are you doing?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you also for having me. Wonderful to be here today.
Awesome. Let's talk about, what had you guys thinking that we needed Ajuda? We've seen a lot of people immigrating, and I guess the last thing anyone's thinking about is medical records.
Correct. Exactly. So what we found was, as Taryn and I met through a doctor-patient relationship, and when I went to visit her to do a home consult on her child from a pediatrician, I found that she didn't have all the information she needed easily accessible for me to be able to holistically view the history of her child. And so we started chatting at that point in time, saying, well, why do we need to go onto multiple different portals? We have to look on different emails and in files to find information that is quite important for the doctor to make an accurate diagnosis. And so that's where the idea started. And then we thought, well, we need to do something here. And we then started developing Ajuda.
And obviously, Dr. Lisa, you are a medical doctor, pediatrician, and so you were not in the tech space, but maybe had a passion for it. For you, Taryn, were you already in the tech space somehow?
So yes, I was. I had worked for many years more in the video streaming space and had come from a tech background. But really, this was something that was a problem that we just felt faced. At the time, we were thinking of it faced moms and parents.
Yeah.
But as we've developed the product over time, we really believe that it's for everybody. We often refer to our market as the sandwich generation, that adults today are looking after their children and they're also looking after their parents in many families. And so managing both sides and managing that all that health information remains in one place, is easily found, doesn't rely on memory. If your doctor moves or you move or you're on holiday or you're working in a different city, all of that is what's required. And tech really is a huge, a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to solve so many of these problems on the ground. And that was what we wanted to do with healthcare, was to solve this problem through tech. So even though I've come from a tech background, obviously that's definitely helped. But bringing the pediatrics and the medical space from Lisa and then my tech and business background really made for a good partnership to build Ajuda.
And I wonder, what was the sort of the challenge or the hindrance as to why information was so fragmented all over the place? In your research, obviously in the developing of this solution, what was the data suggesting? What was it saying about information being so fragmented? Dr. Lisa?
So what we found was that most the reason people would develop any sort of digital application was so that they could basically it's for the promotion of their corporate agenda or whatever their business was.
Okay.
So each medical group or medical aid or whatever it was, they would supply their consumers that they were targeting with what those consumers needed. Nobody was looking at it from the consumer side and saying, well, what the patients actually need is they need all that information that is being created by each of the various stakeholders to be in one place. So while the stakeholders, rightly so, needed to become more digitized and more technical, however, they were definitely promoting patient-centric, the ability to be patient-centric. However, they could only do it within their corporation. There was no way for them to interact with the other player. So what we found is now we've created an opportunity for all the stakeholders to actually bring all their portals to one place so that the patient is empowered with all the information in one place. So in our research, that was the one thing, it was these stakeholders. The second thing we found is that all the people who tried to create digital apps either lacked one or the other side of the side of what needed to be done. So either it was doctors creating apps, but they lacked any of the consumer insights and the marketing and the technical aspects. And they would create an app that would be very limited because they're only looking at it from a medical perspective.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, you'd have the people that were very technical marketing that didn't understand the doctor side. So that's what Tana and I, her with her tech and her her marketing background, together with my medical, we just felt that we were a perfect match to really create something that covered the whole spectrum.
Ladies, as we talk to you, sorry, you wanted to add, Taryn?
No, I wasn't, but if I do have an opportunity, I was just would like to add one comment. It's just that, as Lisa was saying there, we're very collaborative in our nature. We've realized that in order to serve the patient at the end of the day, that's you and me and everybody listening today, it's very much about understanding and making available your own personal ecosystems, personalized healthcare. It isn't just generic healthcare. So from that perspective, what we're really encouraging people to do is just go and create an account. It's simple. It's not even account's the wrong word. Just to go and sign up and register, because we are working with partners. We have a lot of partners in place at the moment, and we look at it due to like a well, where all the taps around is ready to fill. As we turn on the tap, if you've registered and you've got a profile, then all your information in your records will slowly begin to flow into that space, so you don't have to go looking for it.
Yeah.
And in the interim, you can just take a photo of your children's vaccine cards or of upload an X-ray, anything like that, so you've got it all in one place at the very least as we go through with our integration. So that it would be a good thing to add.
Yeah. And I wonder, I was about to say that as you ladies are talking, I'm just thinking about an app that, I've interfaced with because of some of my medical professionals. But when I look at its functionality, to what Dr. Lisa was saying, look at its functionality. It's really not client proficient or patient proficient, because you would think that it's where I can go access all my documents, but really it's just where I go make an appointment for my doctor and find other fertility specialists in my region. And that's it. So even your results are not loaded on there. The things that you would hope were on there to make it a one-stop portal for a patient are not really on there.
You spot on, actually, with what you just said. What our goal is and our vision is really to have that one-stop shop that where patients can go and they can find everything they need in one place and not have to look around on multiple sites for different functionalities. So you spot on. That's exactly what our goal is. And if you look at if you visit our site, it doesn't look like your typical medical app where there's a doctor in a white coat and with a clipboard. It's fun and it's more friendly, and we believe that there's an art to medicine. And we're all about trying to empower the individual with information. So we need to give them the information, not only the health information, but where to go, et cetera, et cetera. So we have multiple features that we're going to be rolling out over the next few months. This is the very beginning, and we're very excited because the launch has been fantastic, and we really are excited about what we are already offering within the vault and the fact that patients have this accessible. And then other features will come further to what you were just saying, to be able to do all those things once in a one-stop shop.
Yeah. And Taryn, let's talk about the willingness for medical professionals as one of the primary stakeholders in this to come on board and to utilize the app? What's their sense? Are they excited? I almost feel like doctors are always reluctant to share your own medical records with you.
So a couple of things. Firstly, the information, our research has shown, and I think it's fairly straightforward and obvious, that what people really want is they want to go and have an appointment. They want to come back and understand what the issue was with the diagnosis, who they saw and when they saw that person, and then what medications they need in a treatment plan. That's the key information that they need. And the reality is that the extensive electronic medical records, of which there is many different services providing that, they're looking at full detailed medical health records, which are not necessarily understandable to myself and other patients and people, and then on the other hand, it's just lost my train of thought there completely. So what we really are wanting to do is, when we look at patients, we don't look at patients, we keep using the word patients, but the reality is that patients imply somebody being ill. Yes. We are trying to look at people when they are both well and when they are not well through their whole ecosystem. So the doctors, back to your question, the doctors that have that we've interacted with have been hugely supportive, because they say themselves that what they find is that there's a lot of digital tools out there, but many of those digital tools only for them also solve one problem, not many, and they don't pull that together. They find it very difficult to go to a single central place where they can actually manage their patients, holistically from the care all the way through to other things like billing and bookings and so forth. So, our future really does fill that space, and we've had many meetings and interactions and discussions, particularly at this stage with pediatricians, GPs, clinics, and various other healthcare providers, allied, physios, etc., and all of them, without fail, have thought this is a wonderful idea, and we are in the process of onboarding them in various ways.
Dr. Lisa, let me jump back to you. By way of the security aspect of it, right? People always want to ensure, particularly if we're dealing with health documents, medical documents, people always want to ensure that security and privacy is at the utmost. And I'm sure this is something also that the two of you ladies in developing Judah have taken as a primary and priority concern.
Absolutely. I mean, the security is of the utmost importance to us, and we've made sure that we are compliant with POPI, we're compliant with the GDPR, and we made sure that everything that we've done is robust, and from a cybersecurity that we have a really robust, secure system. It is absolutely of paramount, because not only do you want to know that your records are housed securely, but also when you're sharing your records, you are, as a patient, in control of what you are sharing. Because the last thing you want to do is also be on a platform where you're putting on your records and any doctor can come in and access it when they're given a They should only be given the access when you say you're happy to disclose and show that information. So with the Judah, we've really put the power in the patient's hand.
Yeah.
It's not a platform where the doctor can just come on and see what about putting in a medical aid number or an ID number. It's a platform that the patient can choose which providers will see what and can switch on and switch off when they see the information. So it really is a patient-focused app, and I think that's the key difference to what currently exists out there. We put everything designed for the patient in mind.
In our last few moments, we've got about 2-3 moments. You've just said something there about doctors having access as and when patients granted to them. So how does that work? How do I give my doctor, Dr. Baker, shout out Dr. Baker, access once I have a profile on Judah?
Okay, so what we're doing at the moment is when you go onto judah.co.za and you complete the onboarding and it will create what we call is a one-time form.
Okay.
The one-time form is all your personal and all your health information on a PDF, and it's online, but you can send it as a PDF to your doctor as an email for now. We're busy in the process of completing the doctor's actual portal where they can then access it online.
Okay.
So for now, the one thing, as you were busy talking to Taryn, the biggest problem with doctors is change management and getting them to adopt the digital technology. So what we've done is doctors are very comfortable with paper, so we are providing them with emails and paper for a start, getting them used to our system, and then the direct doctor's portal will become available to them where they can access it directly, and you will then see there's a functionality only then in about a few months' time that will allow you to share it with Dr. Baker or whomever you see. For now, you just pop in Dr. Baker's email and you send it through to him.
I got you. And I always say he was there when gynecological medicine was invented. And so he's definitely...
I know him very well. I used to work with him in that same hospital. So I know him very well.
Definitely one of the best OBGYNs out there. But, shout out Dr. Baker. He's going to have me because he listens to the show. So in our last moment, we touched a little bit about billing, scheduling records, and of course, your medication and prescriptions. And these are all the things that from a patient perspective, when we talk about memory, these are the things that are always haphazard in our heads. So very top of your priority list, I'm assuming and asking, is ensuring that these 4 categories of the system are there and can be easily understood and utilized by people like myself.
Yes, absolutely. One of the big things that we refer to is movement and memory. People are, as we mentioned earlier, moving around for many different reasons, whether that's immigration, migration, etc. But memory is a huge part of that. So, I'm a mom of 3 children. Lisa's a mom of 3 children. And one of the biggest things that I'm sure other moms out there will identify with is that, when you have to go and constantly remember just to go through schools, what their milestones are, when did you walk, when did you crawl, all of those bits and pieces. And now this is for a high school application where you get to ask some of these things. Have you got your vaccine card? When you start to look after your parents, often it's on that red pill or on that big yellow pill, and no one remembers the name. So memory is a huge thing. On top of that, and it comes down to the one-time form that Lisa was just speaking about, is that often you are forced to fill out a lot of this information or give this information when you're in a stressful situation.
Yeah.
So you will arrive at an emergency ward or casualty, or you've got a child who's screaming and sick with a high temperature, and you've got to remember all of these things and try and take in the information. It's really a very stressful space, and we are trying to relieve all of that from everybody's experience. And so memory, and to your point, keeping track of your medication is essential. And then from the other side is that when you look at medications, there's been such a long history of not tracking our meds. So the overuse of medications, antibiotic resistance, using medications because I've gone to a doctor with this ailment here in Johannesburg, but I might have been away on business and then went to a different doctor for another reason, and then you're on holiday. You're moving around. No one's looking that you might have been prescribed the same thing 3 times in 3 months. That's a problem. So it's, a centralized vault of that information, repository, as a Judah is really important for that holistic management of care and empowering the self-management of individuals.
Ladies, we have to leave it there today, but this definitely sounds like an exciting development, anything to streamline some of these processes and add to the efficacy of our households. That was Dr. Lisa Street and Taryn Uman, and of course that app is Judah. 3 o'clock on the dot, time for me to make way for Ashraf Gada. Inshallah, we'll get to do it again tomorrow.
Thanks, Bridge. The top stories, a 5th arrest in the Joburg school attack incident, and plans to put a halt to the so-called construction mafia. Very good afternoon. Gauteng Police Commissioner Tomi Mtombeni has confirmed that a 5th person has been arrested in relation to the incidents of intimidation and violence